Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. You know, sometimes you have to have a new roof. You just have to have a new one. But if you call Daniel Hood Roofing, you may find that you only need a roof restoration. It can extend the life of your roof by more than a decade. Repairs, restorations, new roofs. Whatever you need roof-wise, Daniel Hood Roofing is your answer. I encourage you, go to their website, read the testimonials from East Tennesseans, your neighbors. You'll be impressed. DanielHoodRoofing.com. Okay, let's take a look here at the Vols' next 4 games. South Carolina. Then you got an open date, Texas A&M, then at Alabama, then at Kentucky. Jimmy, I'll start with you. What are you expecting the Vols to do in those next 4 games? How many wins and why?
2-2. I think the lack of consistency, the offensive lulls that they have had concern me a little bit. They did tackle better against Texas San Antonio, but that tackling performance against Florida was awful. So that concerns me a little bit. I'm with you. They could win all 4. They could lose all 4. I've got them going 2-2 just because I haven't seen enough consistency out of this team yet to believe that they can win 3 or 4.
Josh.
3-1. So I said 9-3 at the beginning of the
Sterling's
season.
happy.
Yeah. Well, Sterling told me to go 4-0, but he didn't offer me enough money to say 4-0 on the show. I said 9-3 at the beginning of the season. This past week, I said, well, I'll stick with that. Mm-hmm. And they need to go 3-1, I think, to get to 9-3. This week is huge, though. They've got to win this one for that to even be possible, I think. And if you do that, 2 weeks to get ready for Texas A&M at home, where I think you're probably favored. Bama's the most difficult to me pretty easily. And then let's see it, Kentucky the week after that.
I'm going to go kind of shockingly 3-1.
I was expecting you to go 1-3.
Well,
wow.
and here's the reason. I don't believe in the teams they're playing. I don't think you'll go to Alabama and win. I think you can go to Kentucky and win because that's what you do. I'm going by the historical records on that one. I think Carolina is going to be close. I don't think anybody's going to be leaving at halftime or at the end of the third quarter. I think it's going to be close. But I think you're marginally better than them. And I think your pass rush and your defense. And in Texas A&M, I just haven't seen enough of them to know. So I'll go a very upbeat 3-1 maybe.
That's shocking to me. Having talked to you on the phone for the last 24 hours, I'm shocked. To me, I'll probably go 2-2. And I think it all comes down to I've seen this team look good to where you go, they're good enough to go 3-1. And I think they are good enough to go 3-1. I just don't think there's going to come a game where they hit the wall and they're not able to make it happen.
So if you do, that changes the equation entirely. If you tackle that poorly, you can go 0-4. I'm going to bet that some of the stuff on defense got worked out after Florida.
Yeah, I think that the Alabama game, the only reason I said you could go 4-0, it's not about Tennessee, it's about Alabama.
Right.
I think you've got Georgia up here, and they're not as up here as they were the last 2 years, but they're still better than everybody else. Yeah. Alabama, LSU, and Tennessee were supposed to be the next 3, but they're all down here with the other mix. I don't think they're a different level than everybody else. I think they're still kind of down here.
Right.
I could be proven wrong. That may change my opinion, but I also think it's interesting where this town goes, where this fan base goes if you lose to South Carolina. Because it didn't take long. It was the Florida loss, and I was getting friends and family. Now, same old Tennessee, they suck. It's like, what's your definition of suck, okay? Because I've seen 3-8 here. I've seen 4-7 here, 4-8, 3-9. Let's dial back on the suck just yet. I mean, even if you come out of this 2-2, you're probably looking at 8-4 to finish the season. Mm-hmm. That's not end of the world terrible. But I think if you lose to South Carolina, the reaction will be end of the world terrible. That's my guess.
It'll be a long 2 weeks to get ready for
Yes,
Texas.
the open day, it's going to hurt that.
If you lose to South Carolina, it isn't going to be end of the world. But, I mean, you could argue it could be end of the season terrible. Because if you lose to them, what makes you think you'll then beat Texas A&M, which I think is probably better. So that's the reason I'm putting a lot on this South Carolina game, a whole lot.
But here's the thing. This is why I agree with your logic. I use that logic, but here's why the logic is faulty. If they lose to South Carolina, we're all going to say, how do they beat the rest of these teams? If they beat South Carolina, we're going to sit here and go, yeah, well, Texas A&M's awful. We're not automatically, not on this show, we're not automatically going to throw those into the win column. So I just think all these teams in the SEC, it's not going to surprise me if you see a lot of teams right around 500. Because Texas A&M, South Carolina, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, I think they're all very, very similar.
They're all very close to one another, and Tennessee is in that group of teams that we're talking about.
And all of them have lesser quarterback play this year, for the most part.
So the reason I give Tennessee a puncher's chance against Alabama, they're not as good at quarterback as they've been. They're not as good at running back. They don't have an elite running back. They're not as good at receiver either.
Right. Yeah.
So I think they're not going to go out and score. What did they score, 49 last year? They're not doing that.
Yeah. You're not going to score 52, but they're not going to score 49.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, very good. So we got a couple of 2-2s and a couple of 3-1s from the happy-go-lucky fellows over here.
Yes.
And
Happy Hodge. All right.
and oozing with confidence.
Yes.
Boy,
good.
I could be talking to 1 and 3 real quick.
When we come back, Bob, thanks for being here. Good luck to your Vikings today. When we come back, it's time for our huddle segment. 3 of our VFLs are going to join us, and they're going to tell us what are the keys to victory for Tennessee against South Carolina. Come on back on the Sports Source.